Captain Jake Morrison stood at the back of the Great Hall, watching the alien delegates argue. His hands were folded behind his back, but his jaw was tight. 3 months ago, he thought joining the Galactic Council would be good for humanity. Now he was not so sure. The hall was massive, bigger than any building on Earth. Strange lights floated in the air, casting weird shadows on the walls. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, their voices creating a noise like angry insects. Some looked like giant lizards, others like walking trees. A few even looked a bit like humans, but with too many eyes or arms in the wrong places. Dr. Lisa Grant sat near the front with the other human delegates. She was small compared to most aliens in the room, but Jake knew she was one of the smartest people he had ever met. Her job was to help humans understand alien cultures. Right now, she looked worried. Ambassador Karen Hughes stood at the center podium. She was speaking to the council about trade agreements. Her voice was calm and professional, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. Behind her, Commander Ryan Bell kept his hand near his weapon. The big man never trusted aliens much, and recent events had not changed his mind. High Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his seat. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice carried across the hall like breaking glass. "The human delegation continues to reject our wisdom," Vextar said. "They cling to primitive ideas about individual rights and democracy. These concepts are dangerous to the stability of our galaxy." Jake felt his anger rising. Primitive ideas? Democracy had taken humans from caves to the stars. It was not primitive at all. Ambassador Hughes raised her hand. "With respect, Chancellor, humanity believes that all thinking beings have the right to choose their own government. We cannot abandon these principles." A wave of angry sounds filled the hall. The Cathari delegate, who looked like a cross between a spider and a snake, clicked his mandibles loudly. "Humans think they know better than species who have traveled space for thousands of years. This arrogance must end." Dr. Grant stood up. "We are not arrogant. We simply believe that freedom is important. Our history shows that societies work better when people can choose their leaders." "Your history shows constant war and violence," snapped the Draknari war chief. He was covered in thick scales and had teeth like knives. "You have fought each other for centuries. This proves humans are too violent for self-rule." Jake stepped forward slightly. He had fought in several wars before becoming a diplomat. Yes, humans fought each other sometimes, but they also helped each other, sacrificed for strangers, and never gave up when things got hard. The aliens did not understand that. High Chancellor Vextar raised all 4 arms for silence. "The Council has made a decision. Humanity will be placed under protective supervision. Earth and all human colonies will report to Council governors. Your military will be reduced to police forces. Your laws will be replaced with Council regulations." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Protective supervision? They were talking about making Earth a slave world. Ambassador Hughes went very still. "And if we refuse? Then you will face economic sanctions and military action," Vextar replied. "Your ships will not be allowed in Council space. Your colonies will receive no supplies or protection. You will be alone in a dangerous galaxy." Dr. Grant was on her feet again. "This is exactly what we feared would happen. You are trying to force us to become like you, controlled and afraid." "We are trying to save you from yourselves," said the Cathari delegate. "Look at your genetic code. Look at your brain chemistry. Humans are unstable, unpredictable. With proper genetic optimization, we can fix these flaws. We can make you better." The hall fell silent. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Genetic optimization. They wanted to change what humans were at the most basic level. Dr. Grant's voice shook with rage. "You want to take away everything that makes us human. Our diversity, our creativity, our ability to choose different paths. You call these things flaws, but they are our greatest strengths." "They are the source of your problems," Vextar said coldly. "Accept our guidance, or suffer the consequences." Ambassador Hughes looked around the hall. Nearly every alien face showed the same expression. They thought humans were children who needed to be controlled. Only a few species looked uncomfortable with the decision. "I need time to discuss this with my government," Hughes said finally. "You have one standard day," Vextar replied. "After that, Council ships will begin moving toward your territory." Jake quietly activated a small device on his belt. It would send an emergency signal to Earth, warning them of what was coming. He had a feeling this was the last peaceful day humanity would have for a long time. As the council session ended, aliens began filing out of the hall. Many of them looked satisfied, as if they had just solved a problem. They had no idea what they had just started. Dr. Grant walked over to Jake and Commander Bell. Her face was pale, but her eyes were fierce. "They think we are weak because we value freedom over order. They think we will just give up when things get difficult." "They are wrong," Jake said quietly. "Humans do not give up. Humans fight." Commander Bell nodded grimly. "My people are ready, Captain. Whatever comes next, we will not bow to these aliens." Jake looked back at the empty podium where Ambassador Hughes still stood. She was staring at the council seal on the wall, a symbol that was supposed to represent unity and peace among the stars. Now it just looked like chains to him. "Signal Earth," he told Bell. "Tell them we are coming home, and tell them to get ready for war." Outside the station, stars shone in the darkness. Somewhere among them was Earth, blue and beautiful and free. The aliens thought they could take that freedom away with threats and force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The emergency signal from Captain Morrison reached Earth 12 hours later. In the Global Defense Council headquarters in Geneva, alarms were ringing and people were running through hallways. General Alex Carter stood in the main command center, watching dozens of screens that showed military bases around the world coming to life. "How long do we have?" Carter asked the communications officer. "Based on the Council's ultimatum, maybe 2 days before their ships start moving toward our colonies," the young lieutenant replied. "After that, we estimate 1 week before they reach Earth." President Maria Santos entered the command center with her security team. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone in the room straightened up when they saw her. She had been elected only 6 months ago, promising to protect human independence in space. Now that promise was being tested. "What are our options, General?" she asked. Carter pulled up a holographic display of Earth's defenses. "We have 300 ships in the Earth Defense Fleet. The Council probably has 10 times that number. In a straight fight, we would lose badly." "What about our colonies?" "Most are declaring loyalty to Earth, but a few are scared. The colony at Kepler 442 already sent a message saying they will accept Council rule if it means avoiding a war." President Santos nodded sadly. She understood their fear, but it still hurt. "And our secret projects?" Dr. Nathan Cross stepped forward. He was the head of Earth's most classified research division. For the past 5 years, his team had been studying alien technology that human explorers had found on dead worlds. The Council thought humans were too primitive to understand advanced science. They were wrong. "Project Thunder is ready for deployment," Cross said. "We have developed new weapons based on gravitational manipulation. They can punch through any known alien shielding. We also have the Phantom Drive system, which makes our ships much faster than anything the Council has." "How many ships have these upgrades?" Santos asked. 50 of our best ships are fully equipped. Another 100 have partial upgrades. We can outfit more, but we need time." Captain Susan Blake walked into the room. She was one of Earth's best pilots and had served with Jake Morrison before he became a diplomat. Her flight suit was already on, and she looked ready for battle. "Madam President, the Terran Guard Squadron is requesting permission to launch immediate patrols around the solar system. We want to be ready when they come." Santos looked around the room at the faces of her military leaders. They were scared, but they were also angry. The Council had made a serious mistake by threatening Earth. Humans had always fought harder when their backs were against the wall. "Dr. Cross, how confident are you in our new technology?" Cross smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "Very confident. We tested the weapons on asteroid targets last month. They work perfectly. The aliens have no idea what we have been building." "Good. General Carter, begin full mobilization of all Earth forces. I want every ship ready for combat within 24 hours. Captain Blake, your squadron is authorized to begin patrol operations immediately. Santos turned to the main communication console. I need to address the world. People need to know what is happening. 2 hours later, President Santos stood before cameras that would broadcast her words to every human settlement in space. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung in a row. She had written the speech herself, and she meant every word. My fellow humans, 3 days ago, our delegates to the Galactic Council were given an ultimatum. The alien powers demand that we abandon our democracy and accept their rule. They want to change our very genetics to make us more obedient. They believe human ideas about freedom are too dangerous to allow. She paused, letting the words sink in. Around the world, billions of people were watching. I am here to tell you that Earth rejects these demands completely. We will not trade our freedom for their version of peace. We will not allow aliens to decide how humans should live. We will not bow down to species who see us as children to be controlled. In military bases across Earth, soldiers cheered. In the orbital shipyards, workers began installing the new weapons Dr. Cross had developed. On Mars and the Moon, colonists started preparing defenses. Today, I am announcing the Terra Doctrine. Earth will withdraw from all Council treaties. We will forge our own path among the stars. We offer friendship to any species that respects our independence. But to those who threaten us, we offer only this warning: humans do not surrender. The broadcast continued for another 10 minutes as Santos explained the military situation and the sacrifices that might be required. When it ended, the reaction was immediate. Protests erupted outside Council embassies on Earth. Human colonies throughout space began declaring their loyalty to Earth rather than the Council. General Carter received reports from around the globe. All military units report ready status, Madam President. The orbital defense platforms are powering up. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected Council ships beginning to move toward human space. Dr. Cross was working at a computer terminal, coordinating the installation of new weapons on Earth's ships. The first wave of upgrades is complete. Captain Blake's squadron now has full gravitational pulse cannons and phantom drive engines. They could outfight anything in the Council fleet. Captain Blake was checking her flight gear when her communicator buzzed. It was a message from Jake Morrison, still aboard the diplomatic ship near Council space. Susan, the aliens are moving faster than expected. A Draknari battle group just left their main base. They are heading for New Haven Colony. You need to warn Earth. Blake ran to the command center. General, we have incoming intelligence from Captain Morrison. The Council is targeting New Haven first. Carter cursed. New Haven was humanity's largest colony outside the solar system. It had 2 million people and served as the main hub for human trade in that sector of space. How long before they arrive at New Haven? Santos asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Blake replied. Can we get reinforcements there in time? Dr. Cross looked up from his computer. Not with our regular ships, but the new Phantom Drive could get a small force there in 2 days. It would be risky, and we would be badly outnumbered. President Santos made the decision quickly. Do it. Send everything we can spare to defend New Haven. We cannot let them take a human world without a fight. As orders went out across Earth's military network, Captain Blake prepared for the most important mission of her life. In a few hours, she would lead a small fleet toward New Haven, carrying weapons the aliens had never seen before. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin, and Earth was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they fought for everything they believed in. In space stations and colonies throughout human territory, people watched the news and made their choices. Most chose to stand with Earth, even if it meant facing the might of the entire Galactic Council. The universe was about to learn that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Colonel Mike Torres stood on the observation deck of New Haven's Defense Command Center, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were coming to destroy everything he had helped build. The colony had grown from a small outpost to a thriving world with 2 million people. Now all of that was in danger. Colonel, incoming transmission from the Draknari fleet, called Lieutenant Ben Parker from the communications station. Parker was young and nervous, but he was good at his job. Put it on the main screen, Torres ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing the face of War Chief Gorthak. The Draknari looked like a massive lizard with armor plating and sharp teeth. His yellow eyes burned with anger. Human colony, I am War Chief Gorthak of the Council Enforcement Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare for occupation. Your leaders will be arrested for rebellion against council authority." Torres stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "This is Colonel Torres, military commander of New Haven. We reject your demands. This is human territory, and you are not welcome here." Gorthak laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You have 50 small ships and a few defense platforms. I have 300 vessels of the Council fleet. Your resistance is pointless." "We will see about that," Torres replied, and cut the transmission. Amy Johnson looked up from her engineering console. She was a small woman with grease stains on her hands and tired eyes. For the past 6 months, she had been secretly installing new defensive systems throughout the colony. "All hidden weapons are online, Colonel. The aliens have no idea what we have waiting for them." Torres nodded. Amy's work was based on technology that Dr. Cross had developed on Earth. The weapons looked like ordinary mining equipment or communications towers, but they packed enough firepower to surprise any attacking fleet. "Lieutenant Parker, begin civilian evacuation to the underground shelters and send a message to Earth. Tell them the Council fleet has arrived." The evacuation had been planned for weeks. Magnetic trains carried families to underground cities that had been carved into the planet's rocky surface. Parents carried sleeping children while older kids helped with luggage. Everyone was scared, but there was no panic. New Haven's people trusted their military to protect them. Engineer Johnson activated her hidden weapons as the alien fleet moved into attack position. Towers that looked like communication relays suddenly revealed themselves as gravitational pulse cannons. Mining platforms opened up to show missile launchers. Even the colony's main hospital had weapons hidden in its roof. The first alien ships entered the planet's atmosphere, expecting easy victory. War Chief Gorthak had fought against dozens of rebellious colonies. Most surrendered quickly when faced with overwhelming force. A few tried to fight but were crushed within hours. "All defense stations, this is Colonel Torres. You are authorized to engage enemy targets. Show them what humans can do." The hidden weapons opened fire at the same time. Beams of twisted gravity tore through alien shields like they were made of paper. Missiles that could track targets through dimensional jumps found their marks with perfect accuracy. In the first 30 seconds of fighting, 12 Council ships were destroyed. Gorthak roared in shock as his ships began exploding around him. "Impossible! Human technology cannot penetrate our defenses." But the weapons kept firing. Amy Johnson had designed them to look harmless until the moment they activated. The aliens had flown into what they thought was a defenseless colony, only to find themselves in a carefully planned trap. Lieutenant Parker was coordinating the civilian evacuation while also managing military communications. His voice stayed calm even as explosions lit up the sky above them. "Colonel, the transport ships report successful evacuation of Sectors 1 through 5. Sectors 6 and 7 are still loading civilians." "How much more time do they need?" 20 minutes for complete evacuation." Torres looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was regrouping after their initial shock. They had lost 30 ships, but they still had hundreds more. Soon they would adapt to the human weapons and press their attack. "Amy, can your systems hold them for 20 minutes? Johnson's fingers flew over her controls. "I can give you 15 minutes, maybe 18 if we are lucky. After that, they will figure out how to counter our weapons." The battle continued above New Haven's clouds. Human fighters launched from hidden bases, using tactics that confused and frustrated the alien pilots. Instead of flying in formation like Council ships, the humans spread out and attacked from unexpected angles. Captain Blake's reinforcement fleet arrived just as the alien ships began adapting to the human weapons. Her squadron came out of hyperspace behind the enemy formation, using their Phantom drive engines to achieve complete surprise. "This is Captain Blake to New Haven Defense. Earth sends its greetings. Sorry we are late to the party." Her ships opened fire with the newest weapons Earth had developed. The gravitational pulse cannons were even more powerful than the ones defending the colony. Alien ships that had survived the first attack began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. War Chief Gorthak found himself caught between two human forces. His ships were designed to fight enemies who used the same tactics and weapons as the Council. The humans fought differently, using creativity and improvisation that no alien military manual had ever described. "All ships, focus fire on the human reinforcements," Gorthak ordered. "Destroy them before they can link up with the planetary defenses." But Captain Blake had other plans. Her pilots split into small groups and attacked from 6 different directions. They used the planet's moons as cover and fired from ranges that should have been impossible to hit targets accurately. Lieutenant Parker received a priority message from one of the evacuation transports. Colonel, Transport 7 reports they are under attack by alien fighters. They are requesting immediate assistance. Torres looked at his tactical display. He could not spare any ships from the main battle, but he could not let civilians die either. Amy, can you retarget some of your ground weapons to help the transport? Already on it, Johnson replied. Her fingers danced across multiple keyboards as she redirected 3 hidden missile batteries. Seconds later, the alien fighters chasing the civilian transport exploded in sequence. The battle raged for 3 hours. Slowly, the alien fleet began to retreat as their losses mounted. War Chief Gorthak had never faced an enemy like the humans. They fought with weapons he had never seen and tactics that made no sense according to Council military doctrine. This is impossible, Gorthak growled as another of his ships exploded. How can primitive humans defeat the might of the Council? Captain Blake answered over an open channel. Because we fight for our freedom, and you fight for your masters. That makes all the difference. As the alien fleet fled the New Haven system, the humans counted their losses. They had lost 8 ships and about 50 ground-based weapons. The aliens had lost over 100 ships and thousands of personnel. Colonel Torres stood in his command center, watching the enemy ships disappear into hyperspace. Lieutenant Parker was coordinating the return of civilians from the underground shelters. Engineer Johnson was already working on repairs and improvements to her defensive systems. Well done, everyone, Torres said into his communicator. New Haven stands free. But he knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not accept this defeat quietly. They would return with more ships and better preparation. The war for human independence had only just started. Captain Blake's voice came through the communication system. Colonel Torres, Earth Command wants to know if New Haven needs additional support. Torres looked around at his people. They were tired and scared, but they were also proud. They had faced the might of the Galactic Council and won. Tell Earth that New Haven is ready for whatever comes next. We will not surrender, and we will not bow down to alien rule. News of the victory spread quickly through human space and beyond. For the first time in galactic history, someone had defeated a Council enforcement fleet. The universe was starting to realize that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had believed. Captain Tony Miller sat in his ship's pilot seat, watching the stars through the viewport. 6 months ago, he had been a simple cargo hauler, moving supplies between human colonies. Now he was one of the most wanted men in Council space, and his cargo hold was full of weapons for alien rebels. The news of humanity's victory at New Haven had spread across the galaxy faster than Council sensors could stop it. On dozens of worlds, oppressed species had begun asking dangerous questions about their rulers. Why should they accept Council authority? Why could they not choose their own leaders like the humans did? Tony, we are getting close to the rendezvous point, called Dr. Rachel Kim from the ship's science station. She had been a researcher studying alien biology before the war started. Now she used her knowledge to help rebel species fight against Council control technology. Any sign of Council patrol ships? Miller asked. Sensors are clear. The Vorthan rebels should be waiting for us behind that asteroid cluster. Miller guided his ship through the floating rocks. The Vorthans were a peaceful species that looked like walking crystals. For 300 years, they had been forced to mine rare elements for the Council. Their workers died young from exposure to radiation, but the Council did not care. Vorthan lives were considered less important than the materials they produced. A blue light flashed from behind a large asteroid. It was the signal Miller had been expecting. He followed the light to a hidden base carved into the rock. Inside, dozens of Vorthan workers waited with their leader, a tall crystal being named Kethvar. Captain Miller, did you bring the equipment we requested? Kethvar asked. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Miller opened his cargo hold. Inside were boxes of human-made weapons and communication devices. Dr. Kim had modified them to work with Vorthan physiology. Everything you asked for, plus some extra surprises. These communication jammers will stop the Council from controlling your mining equipment remotely. The weapons are designed to overload Council energy shields. Kethvar touched one of the weapons carefully. We have never fought before. Our people are not warriors like humans. You do not need to be warriors, Kim said gently. You just need to be free. The weapons are simple to use, and we will teach you basic tactics. While Kim worked with the Vorthons, Miller received an encrypted message from Commander Steve Walsh. Walsh was leading a special operations team deep in Council territory, gathering intelligence and freeing political prisoners. Tony, we just hit a Council prison facility on Zerion Prime. Found something big. They have been running genetic modification programs on dozens of species, not just improving their workers. They are creating entirely new slave races designed to be obedient. Miller felt sick. The Council was not just oppressing existing species, they were creating new ones specifically to be slaves. How many prisoners did you free? Miller asked. About 300, including 50 humans who were captured during diplomatic missions over the years. But that is not the important part. We found files showing that the Council has been planning this for centuries. They want to replace all free-thinking species with modified versions that cannot rebel. Dr. Kim overheard the conversation. That explains some of the biological samples I have been studying. The Council has been experimenting on every species they encounter. An unexpected voice joined their communication channel. It was Princess Zaralyn of the Cathari Empire. She was the daughter of the Cathari ruler, but she had been exiled for questioning Council policies. Captain Miller, I have been monitoring your communications. What Commander Walsh discovered confirms my worst fears about the Council's long-term plans. Miller was surprised to hear from the princess. Your Highness, I thought you were in hiding. I was, but recent events have convinced me to take action. The human rebellion has given hope to species across the galaxy. I want to help. Princess Zaralyn was not like other Cathari. Most of her species looked like giant spiders, but she had been genetically modified to appear more humanoid. It was a sign of her royal status, but it also made other Cathari distrust her. What kind of help can you offer? Kim asked. Intelligence about Council military movements, access to restricted communication networks, and most importantly, proof of the genetic modification programs. I have files that show exactly what the Council has been doing to enslaved species. Commander Walsh's voice crackled through the communication system. Princess, if you really want to help, we could use inside information about Council defenses. We are planning to hit their main research facility on Kronos Station. That facility is heavily guarded, Zaralyn warned, but I know about a weakness in their security system. They use Cathari technology for their internal networks, and I still have access codes. Over the next several weeks, the resistance movement grew rapidly. Captain Miller found himself coordinating supply runs to rebel groups on dozens of worlds. Dr. Kim worked with alien scientists to develop countermeasures against Council biotechnology. Commander Walsh led increasingly daring raids on Council facilities. The breakthrough came when they attacked Kronos Station. Using Princess Zaralyn's access codes, Walsh's team infiltrated the facility and copied thousands of files. What they found shocked even the humans who thought they understood how evil the Council had become. The genetic modification program goes back over 1,000 years, Kim reported to Earth Command. They have been systematically removing free will and independence from every species they encounter. The goal is to create a galaxy full of perfect slaves who will never question Council authority. The evidence was broadcast across every communication network in the galaxy. Even on Council worlds, people learned the truth about their government. The reaction was immediate and violent. Uprisings began on over 50 worlds as species that had been loyal to the Council for centuries turned against their oppressors. Captain Miller received urgent requests for weapons and supplies from rebel groups he had never heard of before. The resistance was growing faster than anyone could track. Tony, we have a problem, Dr. Kim said during one of their supply runs. The Council is starting to adapt to our tactics. They are developing new weapons specifically designed to fight humans and human-equipped rebels. How much time do we have before they deploy these weapons? Miller asked. Maybe 2 months, possibly less. After that, our technological advantage starts to disappear. Miller looked at the star charts on his navigation screen. Hundreds of worlds were now in open rebellion against the Council. But if the aliens developed effective countermeasures, the rebellion could be crushed as quickly as it had started. Then we need to move faster. Contact all rebel leaders and tell them this is their chance. If they are going to strike at Council authority, it has to be now. Princess Zaralin's voice came over the communication channel. Captain, I have more intelligence about Council military movements. They are pulling ships from border areas to defend their core worlds. This is the perfect time for a coordinated attack. Commander Walsh reported in from another sector. We just freed another prison facility. The aliens we rescued are ready to fight. They want revenge for what the Council did to their people. Dr. Kim was working on a new project that could change everything. I think I have found a way to reverse some of the genetic modifications the Council has made. If we can restore free will to their modified slaves, we could turn millions of their own people against them. The galaxy was burning as species after species rose up against their oppressors. The Council had ruled through fear and control for thousands of years, but humans had shown them something they had never seen before: the power of freedom and the courage to fight for it. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the oppressed peoples of the galaxy had real hope that they could win. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the largest fleet in galactic history approach Earth. 3,000 Council ships moved through space like a dark cloud, carrying enough firepower to turn planets into dust. Every major species in the Council had contributed vessels to this final assault. Admiral, long-range sensors show the enemy fleet will reach the outer solar system in 6 hours, reported his communications officer. Morrison nodded grimly. He had been promoted after the diplomatic mission that started this war. Now he commanded Earth's defense fleet, knowing that this battle would decide the fate of humanity and freedom itself. How many ships do we have ready for combat? He asked. 400 human vessels, plus another 600 ships from allied species, came the reply. The rebels from across the galaxy have sent everything they could spare. Captain Susan Blake walked onto the bridge. Her Terran Guard squadron had become legendary throughout human space. She wore a new flight suit covered with mission patches from dozens of battles. Admiral, my pilots are ready. We have been waiting for this fight since the war began. Morrison looked at the tactical display. Earth was surrounded by defense platforms and minefields, but the Council fleet still outnumbered them badly. However, Admiral Morrison had learned something important during this war. Numbers did not always decide battles. Captain Blake, deploy your squadron to Mars Orbital Station. When the shooting starts, I want you to hit their command ships first. On Earth, President Maria Santos was in the Global Defense Center coordinating with General Alex Carter and Dr. Nathan Cross. The planet's entire population was watching the news, knowing that their freedom hung in the balance. General, are all our ground defenses ready? Santos asked. Every major city has shield generators and weapon systems. If any alien ships get through our fleet, we will be ready for them, Carter replied. Dr. Cross was making final adjustments to his latest weapons. Madam President, I have one more surprise for the Council fleet. We have been working on something we call the Freedom Broadcast. What does it do? It sends a signal that can reverse the genetic modifications the Council has made to enslaved species. Any modified beings on their ships will suddenly remember what freedom feels like. They might decide to change sides. The evidence was broadcast across every communication network in the galaxy. Even on Council worlds, people learned the truth about their government. The reaction was immediate and violent. Uprisings began on over 50 worlds as species that had been loyal to the Council for centuries turned against their oppressors. Captain Miller received urgent requests for weapons and supplies from rebel groups he had never heard of before. The resistance was growing faster than anyone could track. Tony, we have a problem, Dr. Kim said during one of their supply runs. The Council is starting to adapt to our tactics. They are developing new weapons specifically designed to fight humans and human-equipped rebels. How much time do we have before they deploy these weapons? Miller asked. Maybe 2 months, possibly less. After that, our technological advantage starts to disappear. Miller looked at the star charts on his navigation screen. Hundreds of worlds were now in open rebellion against the Council. But if the aliens developed effective countermeasures, the rebellion could be crushed as quickly as it had started. Then we need to move faster. Contact all rebel leaders and tell them this is their chance. If they are going to strike at Council authority, it has to be now. Princess Zaralin's voice came over the communication channel. "Captain, I have more intelligence about Council military movements. They are pulling ships from border areas to defend their core worlds. This is the perfect time for a coordinated attack." Commander Walsh reported in from another sector. "We just freed another prison facility. The aliens we rescued are ready to fight. They want revenge for what the Council did to their people." Dr. Kim was working on a new project that could change everything. "I think I have found a way to reverse some of the genetic modifications the Council has made. If we can restore free will to their modified slaves, we could turn millions of their own people against them." The galaxy was burning as species after species rose up against their oppressors. The Council had ruled through fear and control for thousands of years, but humans had shown them something they had never seen before: the power of freedom and the courage to fight for it. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the oppressed peoples of the galaxy had real hope that they could win. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the largest fleet in galactic history approach Earth. 3,000 Council ships moved through space like a dark cloud, carrying enough firepower to turn planets into dust. Every major species in the Council had contributed vessels to this final assault. "Admiral, long-range sensors show the enemy fleet will reach the outer solar system in 6 hours, reported his communications officer. Morrison nodded grimly. He had been promoted after the diplomatic mission that started this war. Now he commanded Earth's defense fleet, knowing that this battle would decide the fate of humanity and freedom itself. "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" he asked. 400 human vessels, plus another 600 ships from allied species, came the reply. "The rebels from across the galaxy have sent everything they could spare." Captain Susan Blake walked onto the bridge. Her Terran Guard squadron had become legendary throughout human space. She wore a new flight suit covered with mission patches from dozens of battles. "Admiral, my pilots are ready. We have been waiting for this fight since the war began." Morrison looked at the tactical display. Earth was surrounded by defense platforms and minefields, but the Council fleet still outnumbered them badly. However, Admiral Morrison had learned something important during this war. Numbers did not always decide battles. "Captain Blake, deploy your squadron to Mars Orbital Station. When the shooting starts, I want you to hit their command ships first." On Earth, President Maria Santos was in the Global Defense Center, coordinating with General Alex Carter and Dr. Nathan Cross. The planet's entire population was watching the news, knowing that their freedom hung in the balance. "General, are all our ground defenses ready?" Santos asked. "Every major city has shield generators and weapons systems. If any alien ships get through our fleet, we will be ready for them," Carter replied. Dr. Cross was making final adjustments to his latest weapons. "Madam President, I have one more surprise for the Council fleet. We have been working on something we call the Freedom Broadcast." "What does it do?" "It sends a signal that can reverse the genetic modifications the Council has made to enslave species. Any modified beings on their ships will suddenly remember what freedom feels like. They might decide to change sides." Ex-President Santos addressed the galaxy from the steps of the Global Defense Center. Behind her, representatives from dozens of species stood together, former enemies united by their desire for freedom. Today marks the end of the Galactic Council's reign of terror, but it also marks the beginning of something new. We propose to create a free worlds alliance where every species has the right to govern itself, where diversity is celebrated, not eliminated, where freedom is not a privilege to be granted, but a right to be protected. The response was overwhelming. Within days, over 100 worlds had requested membership in the new alliance. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together, united by human ideals of democracy and individual rights. Admiral Morrison stood on his ship's bridge, looking out at Earth. The blue planet hung in space like a beacon of hope. Around it, ships from dozens of species worked together to clean up the debris from the battle. Dr. Cross reported that the Freedom broadcast had been successful beyond their wildest dreams. "We are receiving signals from across the galaxy. Enslaved populations on thousands of worlds are rising up against their oppressors. The Council's genetic control systems are failing everywhere." Captain Blake landed her fighter on the flagship's deck. She was tired but smiling. "Admiral, we just received a message from Captain Miller. The resistance cells across the galaxy are coordinating their attacks. The Council is collapsing faster than anyone thought possible. The war was not completely over. There would be more battles as the galaxy restructured itself around principles of freedom and self-determination. But the hardest part was done. Humanity had proven that even the mightiest empire could be defeated by people fighting for their freedom. Princess Zara Lynn approached Admiral Morrison on the bridge. "Admiral, my people want to thank humanity for showing us what freedom means. Without your example, we never would have found the courage to rebel." Morrison looked around at the mixed crew on his bridge. Humans, Vorthons, reformed Cathari, and even some former council species who had joined the rebellion. "Your Highness, freedom is not something humans invented. It is something that exists in the heart of every thinking being. We just reminded the galaxy what they had forgotten." As news of the victory spread, humans across the galaxy began the long work of building a better future. The universe had not been ready for human ideals of freedom and democracy. But humanity had been ready to teach them, no matter the cost. The stars themselves seemed brighter as countless worlds tasted freedom for the first time in millennia.